My name is Morgan Williams, and at 34 years old, I never expected to be standing outside my mother's 60th birthday party, uninvited. Mom and I were always close. At least that's what I thought until my father blocked the entrance with a cold stare. "You're not on the list," he said, like I was a stranger trying to crash a celebrity event. I watched my sister Brooke smirk as I stood there, gift in hand, heart shattered. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from. Hit that like button if you've ever felt excluded by the people who should love you most. Growing up as the middle child in suburban Chicago wasn't easy. I existed in the shadow between my older sister Brooke, the academic superstar, and my younger brother Tyler, the baby everyone adored. Our family photos tell the story. Brooke center stage with trophies, Tyler being coddled, and me, well, I was just there, often half-cropped out of the frame. Mom was different though. At least she used to be. When I was 7, I remember coming home devastated after not being invited to Melissa Anderson's birthday party. While Dad dismissed it with "not everyone gets invited to everything," Mom sat with me and made paper party hats. We had our own little celebration, just us two. "You're special in your own way, Morgan," she whispered. Never forget that. When I was 12, I won 3rd place in the science fair with my solar system model. Not first like Brooke always achieved, but Mom framed my certificate anyway. "It's not about being the best," she said. "It's about doing your best." She hung it right next to Brooke's wall of achievements. Dad took it down 3 days later, saying it cluttered the wall, but Mom secretly kept it in her bedside drawer. During my 16th birthday, when friends canceled last minute for a more popular girls' party, Mom drove me 2 hours to the city for a musical I'd been dying to see. We dressed up, had dinner at a fancy restaurant, and she treated me like I was the most important person in the world. Sometimes it's quality, not quantity, that matters with relationships, she assured me. These moments were my anchors, proof that someone in my family truly saw me. But things changed when I left for college. Unlike Brooke, who stayed close to home at Northwestern, I ventured further to Boston University. "Why so far?" Dad complained. "Are we not good enough for you?" That distance, initially geographic, gradually became emotional. After college, I surprised everyone, including myself, by thriving in the tech industry. While Brooke followed Dad into the family insurance business and Tyler floated between bartending jobs, I climbed the corporate ladder aggressively. By 34, I was director of operations at Vertex Technologies, managing over 200 employees and a budget that made my father's insurance agency look like a lemonade stand. My success created a rift. During holidays, conversations became landmines. "So you're still at that computer company?" Dad would ask, though I'd sent family gift baskets with Vertex's logo every Christmas for 5 years. "When are you going to settle down and give your mother grandchildren?" was the inevitable follow-up, despite Brooke and her boyfriend Jesse not having children either. But the real tension was with Brooke. 3 Thanksgivings ago, after too many glasses of wine, she cornered me in the kitchen. "You think you're so special with your fancy Boston life," she hissed, slicing into the pumpkin pie with unnecessary force. "You have no idea what it's like here, dealing with Mom and Dad every day while you send occasional gifts and think that counts as family." "I call every week," I defended myself. "I invite you all to visit." To show off, she snapped. "Everything's a competition with you, Morgan. Always has been." The irony of that statement coming from Brooke was staggering. I'd spent my childhood watching her collect accolades while I clapped from the sidelines. "That's not fair," I said, keeping my voice low. "I've worked hard for what I have." "And we haven't?" Her eyes narrowed. "You think you're better than us because you escaped?" Let me tell you something. Mom doesn't brag about your job. She doesn't even understand what you do. At least I'm here, being a real daughter. Those words cut deeper than she knew. After that Thanksgiving, Mom's weekly calls became monthly, then sporadic. When we did speak, she sounded distant, distracted. The woman who once kept my science fair certificate in her drawer now struggled to remember basic details about my life. Tyler followed Brooke's lead, as he always had. My once playful texts with my younger brother devolved into one-word responses. The last time I visited, he spent the entire weekend glued to his phone, barely acknowledging my presence. Dad had never been my champion, but his disapproval calcified into something harder. "Your mother worries about you," he'd say during our increasingly rare conversations. All alone in that city. Working too much. It's not natural for a woman your age. I tried explaining that I wasn't alone. I had friends, colleagues, a life I'd built. But to them, success without their definition of family wasn't really success at all. It was failure dressed in designer clothes and a corner office. Mom's gradual withdrawal hurt most of all. The woman who once drove 2 hours for a musical now couldn't seem to spare 5 minutes on the phone without Brooke hovering in the background. "Brooke says you're too busy for us now," she mentioned once, voice small. "Is that true, Morgan?" No matter how I answered, the narrative had already been written. I was the daughter who left. The one who chose career over family. The villain in a story I never agreed to star in. Last Thanksgiving was the breaking point. After another pointed comment from Brooke about my empty life, I finally snapped. "At least I built my life myself," I said, setting down my fork. "I didn't just slide into Dad's business and pretend that makes me special." The table fell silent. Mom looked stricken. Dad's face reddened. "I think you should leave," Brooke said quietly, victorious. So I did. I packed my bag, called a car, and flew back to Boston that night. No one called to apologize. No one called at all. Until 3 months later, when I saw the Facebook post about Mom's 60th birthday celebration. Not from her page, she barely used social media, but from Brooke's. A grand party with all extended family invited. Everyone except me, apparently. I discovered Mom's birthday celebration while mindlessly scrolling through Facebook during a late night at the office. Brooke had created an event page with a professional-looking banner celebrating Patricia Williams' 60 years of love. The guest list included relatives I hadn't seen in years, childhood neighbors, even Mom's old college roommate who now lived in Florida. My name was conspicuously absent from the going list. I stared at my screen, the blue light illuminating my face in the darkened office. It was nearly midnight in Boston, and I was still reviewing quarterly reports while the cleaning staff vacuumed around my desk. This dedication was exactly what my family criticized, but it was also what had earned me respect in an industry not always kind to women. "Morgan." My assistant Rachel appeared in the doorway. "You're still here?" The security guy called up wondering if everything was okay. I minimized the Facebook tab quickly. "Just finishing up some things." Rachel nodded, unconvinced. "You know, normal people don't work until midnight on Fridays." "Since when am I normal?" I attempted a smile that didn't reach my eyes. After she left, I reopened Facebook and did something I rarely allowed myself. I scrolled through family photos. Mom's 59th birthday last year, which I'd missed due to the Tokyo client emergency. Tyler's promotion to head bartender, which I'd congratulated via text. Dad and Mom's anniversary dinner, everyone smiling except the empty space where I should have been. I picked up my phone and called my mother directly. It was late, but she was always a night owl. "Morgan." She sounded surprised. "Is everything okay?" That was our relationship now. Calls meant emergencies, not connection. "Everything's fine, Mom. I swallowed hard. I saw about your birthday party. On Facebook." A pause. "Oh, that." "I didn't get an invitation," I said, hating how small my voice sounded. "I thought." She hesitated. "Brooke said you were too busy. That big project you mentioned. The Singapore expansion? That's next month." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Mom, it's your 60th birthday. Of course I'd make time." "Well," her voice warmed slightly, "of course you should come. It would be lovely to see you." The conversation continued awkwardly. with Mom providing basic details while sounding strangely hesitant. After hanging up, I immediately booked a first-class ticket to Chicago for the following weekend. $2,100 I couldn't really afford to spend, but this felt important, necessary. The next morning, I called Rachel from my apartment. I need to take Friday off next week. Family thing. You? Taking time off for family? She sounded genuinely shocked. Are you feeling okay? Very funny. Just reschedule the vendor meetings, please. Preparing for this trip became an operation of military precision. I spent hours finding the perfect gift. A vintage emerald brooch from an antique shop that reminded me of one Mom had always admired in her grandmother's jewelry box, paired with a premium spa package at the resort she'd mentioned wanting to visit. The total came to just under $3,000, extravagant perhaps, but I wanted to show them all that despite my absence, I still knew what would make Mom happy. Shopping for an outfit was equally strategic. I finally settled on a sapphire blue dress, conservative enough for Dad's approval, but stylish enough to show I was doing well. Not that I needed their validation, I told myself unconvincingly while swiping my credit card. The night before my flight, I practiced conversations in my bathroom mirror. So great to see everyone. Smile, not too eager. The company? Things are going well, but enough about work. Deflect, don't brag. Brooke, I'm sorry about what I said last Thanksgiving. Even though she started it. I rehearsed these lines like preparing for the most important presentation of my career. In many ways, it was. The morning of my flight, I received a text from Brooke. Heard you're coming. Just don't make this weekend about you. I stared at those words for the entire Uber ride to Logan Airport. How could I respond to that? I finally typed, looking forward to celebrating Mom, and left it at that. The flight to Chicago gave me 3 hours to alternately hope and worry. I flipped through work documents without absorbing anything, then practiced deep breathing techniques my therapist had recommended. Your family triggers old patterns, Dr. Levine had explained during our sessions. Remember you're returning as the adult you are now, not the child you were then. Easy to say. Harder to feel when approaching the gravitational pull of childhood dynamics. I checked into the Westin downtown rather than staying at my parents' house in the suburbs. Another decision that would likely be interpreted as Morgan being too good for us, but the thought of sleeping in my old bedroom, still decorated with my high school debate team pennants, was unbearable. I needed neutral territory, somewhere to retreat if things went badly. That evening, I ordered room service and laid out my outfit for tomorrow. The blue dress. Silver heels that weren't too high. Simple pearl earrings that had been a college graduation gift from Mom. Everything calculated to send the right message. Successful but not showy. Professional but still feminine. Independent but still your daughter. I barely slept. By morning, I had convinced myself this trip was either going to heal everything or break what little connection remained. There was no middle ground. I applied my makeup with trembling hands, curled my hair, and practiced one last smile in the mirror. Happy birthday, Mom, I whispered to my reflection. I hope you're glad to see me. The venue was a renovated boathouse overlooking Lake Michigan, exactly Mom's style. Elegant but unpretentious, with natural wood beams and floor-to-ceiling windows capturing the April sunlight dancing across the water. I recognized cars in the parking lot, Uncle Robert's vintage Corvette, Aunt Diana's practical Subaru, even my cousin Stephen's motorcycle. All the Williams family vehicles, familiar as childhood toys. As I approached the entrance, clutching my carefully wrapped gift, I spotted my father's college friend Thomas smoking outside. Morgan. His eyebrows shot up. My goodness, is that you? It's been years. Hi, Mr. Paulson, I smiled, falling back into childhood formality. Good to see you. You look just like your mother at your age, he said, giving me an awkward side hug. She'll be thrilled you made it. She was just saying she wished all her children could be here today. That comment sent a confusing pang through me. Why would Mom say that if she knew I was coming? Before I could question further, my cousin Eliza emerged from the building. Morgan. Her surprise seemed genuine as she embraced me. I had no idea you were coming. Brooke said you couldn't make it because of some big work thing. I rearranged some meetings, I said carefully, increasingly uneasy. It's Mom's 60th. I wouldn't miss it. Eliza's expression shifted subtly. Right. Well, everyone's inside. Your mom looks beautiful. I followed her to the entrance, where my father stood greeting guests. His gray hair was freshly cut, his posture still military straight from his years in the reserve. When he saw me, no smile came. Instead, his face hardened into the expression I knew from childhood reprimands. Morgan, he said flatly. What are you doing here? The question knocked the rehearsed greeting from my mind. I'm here for Mom's birthday, I said, trying to keep my voice light. Is that so surprising? He looked down at the clipboard in his hand, running his finger down what appeared to be a guest list. You're not on the list. Those 4 words hung in the air between us. I felt blood rush to my face, aware of others watching this interaction. There must be some mistake, I said quietly. I spoke to Mom last week. She said of course I should come. Dad's expression didn't change. There's no mistake. This party has been planned for months. By people who are actually involved in your mother's life. The deliberate cruelty of his words stole my breath. Behind him, I could see other guests pretending not to watch while absolutely watching. This humiliation was public, intentional. Dad, I said, lowering my voice further. Please don't do this. I flew in specifically for this. I just want to wish Mom happy birthday. You should have called first, he said. This is a private party for people who actually make time for family. Before I could respond, Brooke appeared at his side, her boyfriend Jesse trailing behind her. She wore a pink dress nearly identical to one Mom owned, her hair styled in Mom's preferred soft waves. The visual message wasn't subtle. She was the true daughter, the rightful heir to maternal affection. Is there a problem? She asked sweetly, though her eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Morgan's not on the guest list, Dad repeated. Oh, Brooke's false concern was almost artistic. That's awkward. I thought we discussed this, Morgan. After what happened at Thanksgiving? We didn't discuss anything, I said, fighting to keep my composure. I spoke to Mom directly. Mom probably felt put on the spot, Brooke shrugged. You know how she hates confrontation. I looked past them, trying to locate my mother in the crowd inside. Where is she? I'd like to speak with her myself. She's busy with her actual guests, Dad said. I'm not going to let you upset her on her birthday. I noticed Jesse shifting uncomfortably behind Brooke, his gaze fixed on the ground. He was tall, conventionally handsome with dark hair and glasses, wearing a suit that looked expensive, but slightly too large. I'd never met him before, only seen him in Facebook photos. He seemed distinctly uncomfortable with the scene unfolding. As I stood there, gift in hand, I overheard an older woman whisper, "Is that Morgan?" I thought she wasn't speaking to the family anymore. Another voice, Cousin Stephen's wife perhaps. Brooke said she called Patricia an unsupportive mother at Thanksgiving. Can you imagine? And then Brooke herself, not bothering to lower her voice. Did she really think she was welcome after what she said? In that moment, I understood with crystal clarity. This rejection wasn't impromptu. It was planned, probably anticipated with pleasure. I was being punished, not just excluded. I took a deep breath and steadied myself. I would not cry here. I would not give them the satisfaction. I understand, I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. Please give this to Mom. It's her birthday gift. I handed the beautifully wrapped package to my father, who took it reflexively. Tell her I love her and hope she has a wonderful birthday, I continued, maintaining eye contact with him. That's all I came to say. Without waiting for a response, I turned and walked away, back straight, pace measured. I didn't allow myself to rush, though every instinct screamed to run from this humiliation. Behind me, I heard Brooke's laugh, then my father's deeper voice, saying something I couldn't quite catch. I made it all the way to my rental car before my hands started shaking so badly I couldn't get the key into the ignition. The carefully applied mascara was in danger of creating black rivers down my cheeks. I gripped the steering wheel, focusing on my breathing. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. I would not break down in this parking lot. I would drive back to the hotel, pack my things, change my flight, and be back in Boston by tomorrow. This chapter would be closed forever. No more attempts at reconciliation, no more holiday phone calls, no more pretending we were a family instead of people who once lived in the same house. I was about to start the car when a knock on my window nearly caused me to jump out of my skin. Jesse, Brooke's boyfriend, stood beside my car, gesturing for me to roll down the window. His expression was concerned, almost apologetic. For a moment, I considered ignoring him and driving away, but curiosity won out. I lowered the window partway. "Morgan," he said, then cleared his throat nervously. "Miss Williams, I mean." "Just Morgan is fine," I replied automatically, then frowned. "Wait, how do you know to call me Ms. Williams?" Jesse glanced back toward the venue, then at me again. "Because I work at Vertex Technologies in Boston. I'm in the software engineering department. 3rd floor." My mind raced through employee directories, trying to place him. Jesse Lawson, he supplied. "I joined about 8 months ago. I transferred from the Chicago office to be closer to Brooke on weekends. I recognized you immediately when I saw you today. The universe has a twisted sense of humor sometimes. Of all the tech companies in Boston, my sister's boyfriend worked at mine." I'd been so busy with the operations side that I hadn't connected the dots about a new engineer. "Does Brooke know you work for me?" I asked. "Not exactly," he admitted, looking increasingly uncomfortable. "She knows I work at Vertex, but I never specified that you were, well, essentially your boss," I finished for him. The organizational chart at Vertex meant that while Jesse didn't report directly to me, I was definitely in his upward management chain. "May I sit down?" he asked, gesturing to the passenger seat. "I feel like I owe you an explanation." Against my better judgment, I unlocked the door. Jesse slid in, immediately making my rental car feel smaller with his tall frame. "I should have said something in there," he began. "That wasn't right what they did." "Why didn't you?" The question came out sharper than intended. "Complicated family dynamics," he sighed. "I've only been dating Brooke for about a year. Still trying to navigate everything." "Well, now you've seen the Williams family at our finest," I said bitterly. "That's actually why I followed you out here," Jesse said, turning to face me directly. "What happened in there wasn't spontaneous. It was discussed in advance." My stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" "Last night, at the rehearsal dinner, Brooke and your dad were talking about what to do if you showed up. Your dad said he'd handle it. Your mom wasn't part of that conversation." The revelation that they'd actually planned my humiliation was somehow worse than thinking it was an impulsive cruelty. "Does my mother even know I tried to come today?" I asked. Jesse hesitated. "She asked about you earlier. Wondered if you might surprise her. Brooke told her you'd sent your regrets weeks ago." "That's a lie," I whispered. "I never." "I know," Jesse nodded. "I've picked up a lot over the past year. Brooke talks about you constantly." "I'm sure it's all flattering," I said dryly. "It's complicated," he replied, choosing his words carefully. "There's a lot of jealousy there. She compares herself to you all the time, though she'd never admit it." "Jealous? Of what?" I couldn't keep the disbelief from my voice. "She's the golden child. Always has been. But you're the one who got away," Jesse said simply. "You built something entirely your own. And at work." He trailed off. "At work what?" "You're respected, Morgan. Really respected. People talk about your leadership style, your strategic thinking." When I realized Brooke's sister Morgan was the same Morgan Williams everyone at Vertex admires, it was strange, reconciling those two images. I sat in stunned silence, processing his words. While I'd been feeling like a failure in my family's eyes, apparently I'd become something of a role model professionally without even realizing it. Brooke has been systematically poisoning your relationship with your parents, Jesse continued. Small comments, reframing your absences as deliberate rejections, exaggerating arguments. When your mom mentioned missing you, Brooke would remind her of some perceived slight. And my mother believed her? The pain in that question was evident. Your mom's been having some health issues, Jesse said gently. Nothing severe, but enough to make her more vulnerable to manipulation. Mild depression, some memory issues. Brooke's been helping by managing her social calendar, her medications. The implications hit me like physical blows. While I'd been building my career in Boston, Brooke had been constructing an entirely different narrative here in Chicago. One where I was the villain, the cold-hearted daughter who abandoned her family for corporate success. Why are you telling me this? I finally asked. You're dating my sister. Your loyalty should be to her. Jesse looked down at his hands. Because what happened in there was wrong. And because at Vertex, I've seen how you treat people. With respect, even when they make mistakes. The stories don't match up. He paused. Also, selfishly, it's awkward when your girlfriend's family drama involves your boss. Despite everything, that made me laugh a little. I can imagine. So, what are you going to do? He asked. I stared out at Lake Michigan, its surface glittering in the spring sunshine. The easy path would be to drive away, return to Boston, and finally sever these painful ties. The professional in me knew that sometimes cutting losses was the strategic choice. But another part of me, perhaps the part that still remembered my mother making paper party hats when I was 7, couldn't just leave things this way. I think I said slowly that it's time everyone heard the truth. Including my mother. Jesse nodded, looking both relieved and terrified. I'll support whatever you decide to do. Just remember I have to see these people at holidays. Don't worry, I assured him, reaching for the door handle. I've learned a thing or two about handling difficult personalities in the corporate world. As we walked back toward the venue, I felt a strange calm settle over me. This confrontation wasn't what I'd planned for today, but perhaps it was exactly what had been needed for years. Walking back into that building was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Harder than my first major presentation to the board. Harder than firing a team member I personally hired. This required a different kind of courage, the courage to face people who'd known you since you wore braces and still believed they had the right to define who you were. Jesse and I entered through a side door, avoiding my father's checkpoint at the main entrance. The celebration was in full swing now, with about 60 people mingling around circular tables. A slideshow of family photos played on a large screen. I noted my near absence from the curated selection. My mother sat at a central table, looking beautiful in a lavender dress that complemented her silver hair. She was laughing at something Uncle Robert was saying, unaware of the drama that had unfolded at the entrance. Brooke noticed us first. Her eyes widened, darting between Jesse and me with dawning comprehension. She immediately began making her way across the room, but it was too late. Jesse stepped forward, his voice carrying across the room as conversations naturally lulled. Everyone, I'd like to introduce Morgan Williams, Patricia's daughter. And, he added with perfect timing, my boss at Vertex Technologies. The room fell silent. My mother's head snapped up, her eyes finding mine with a mixture of confusion and what appeared to be genuine delight. Morgan, she stood up, napkin falling forgotten to the floor. You came. Before I could respond, Brooke reached us, her face flushed with anger. Jesse, what are you doing? She hissed. The right thing, he said simply. My father appeared next, his expression thunderous. I thought I made myself clear at the door. You did, I replied, keeping my voice level. But it seems there's been some confusion about my relationship with this family that needs clearing up. Mom approached, looking between us with growing concern. What's going on? Robert, why do you look so angry? "Morgan, sweetheart, I'm so happy you're here." Her sincere joy at seeing me confirmed what Jessie had said. She hadn't known about my rejection at the door. The realization both relieved and infuriated me. "Mom," I said gently, taking her hands in mine. "I need to ask you something important. Did you think I didn't want to come to your birthday?" She blinked, confusion evident. "Well, Brooke said you were too busy with work. That big project you mentioned." "I never said that," I told her firmly. "In fact, when we spoke, I specifically said I would be here. I took time off work. I flew in yesterday." "But then why?" Her gaze shifted to Brooke, then to my father. "I was just at the door," I continued, aware that the entire party was watching this family drama unfold. "Dad told me I wasn't on the guest list. That this party was for people who actually make time for family." Mom's expression changed from confusion to shock. "Robert, is this true?" My father's face reddened. "Patricia, we discussed this. After what she said at Thanksgiving." "We discussed no such thing," Mom interrupted, her voice uncharacteristically sharp. "Morgan is my daughter. Of course she's welcome at my birthday." The room had gone so quiet you could hear ice clinking in glasses. This wasn't how I'd imagined the confrontation, playing out in front of extended family and my mother's bridge club, but perhaps that public accountability was necessary. "There's been a pattern," I said, addressing my mother directly but aware of our audience. "For years now, things I've said have been twisted. Absences due to work portrayed as deliberate neglect. My life choices framed as rejections of family." Brooke stepped forward, her smile tight. "This is hardly the time or place, Morgan. Always making everything about yourself, even Mom's birthday." "That's exactly what I mean," I gestured toward her. "That characterization of me. Selfish, self-centered. It's the narrative that's been created. But it's not true." I turned to face the room at large. "Many of you have known me since childhood. I've never been perfect, but I've always loved my family. My career took me to Boston, not Mars. Phone calls work both ways. Visits work both ways." My cousin Stephen nodded slightly, and I saw Aunt Diana whisper something to Uncle Robert. "Brooke," I continued, keeping my voice professional, "the same tone I used in difficult negotiations at work has been systematically undermining my relationship with our parents. Exaggerating conflicts. Reframing my achievements as abandonments. That's ridiculous," Brooke scoffed, but her eyes darted nervously. "Is it?" I turned to Jessie. "What did Brooke tell you about me before you met me today?" Put on the spot, Jessie looked uncomfortable but answered honestly. "That you were cold. Career-obsessed. That you'd called your mother unsupportive and said the family was holding you back." "I never said those things," I stated firmly. "It was implied," Brooke insisted. "No, it wasn't," I countered. "At Thanksgiving, after you accused me of thinking I was better than everyone, I defended myself. I said I built my career myself." "That's not an attack on the family. It's a statement of fact." Mom looked devastated. "Is this true, Brooke? Have you been turning us against Morgan?" Brooke's composure finally cracked. "You don't understand." She left. She got to leave and become Ms. Big Shot Executive while I stayed here, taking care of everything, being the good daughter. And what thanks do I get? You still light up more when she calls than when I'm right in front of you. The raw pain in her voice silenced the room. Despite everything, I felt a flash of empathy for my sister. We'd both been trapped in roles assigned to us as children, she the achiever who stayed, me the rebel who left. "Brooke," Mom said softly, "I've never compared you two. I love you both differently because you are different people." "Then why do you keep her science fair certificate in your drawer?" Brooke demanded, tears threatening. "Third place. She got third place 15 years ago, and you still have it." I was stunned. That certificate had become a symbol for Brooke of some perceived preferential treatment I'd never experienced. Dad, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke. "I think we should continue this discussion privately." "No," Mom said firmly. "I'm tired of secrets and misunderstandings in this family." She turned to our assembled guests. I apologize for the drama, everyone. Please enjoy the food and music. My family and I need a moment. She gestured toward a small side room, and my father, Brooke, Jesse, and I followed her. As the door closed behind us, I caught glimpses of wide eyes and whispered conversations erupting in our wake. Inside the private room, Mom took charge in a way I hadn't seen in years. Sit down, all of you. We complied like scolded children. Robert, she addressed my father first. Did you turn our daughter away at the door of my birthday party? Dad shifted uncomfortably. I was protecting you. After what she said about the family. What exactly did she say? Mom pressed. In her own words, not Brooke's interpretation. My father looked genuinely confused. That we were holding her back. That she had to build her life herself because we never supported her. That's not what I said, I interjected quietly. I said I built my career myself. Which is true. It wasn't an attack, it was a statement of fact after Brooke accused me of having an empty life. Mom turned to Brooke. Have you been deliberately keeping your sister and me apart? Brooke's defiance crumbled under our mother's direct questioning. I was tired of being taken for granted. Morgan gets to swoop in for holidays, everyone makes a big fuss, then she disappears again while I'm here every day, driving you to doctor's appointments, helping with the house. Doctor's appointments? I interrupted, looking at my mother. What doctor's appointments? Mom sighed. I've been having some issues with mild depression and memory. Nothing serious, but it's been challenging. Brooke has been very helpful. You never told me, I said, hurt evident in my voice. Brooke suggested it might stress you out. With your demanding job, Mom admitted, then frowned. But I see now that wasn't her decision to make. The pieces were falling into place. My mother's increasing distance, her confusion during our calls, the way Brooke had positioned herself as gatekeeper to family information. I'm sorry, Jesse spoke up unexpectedly. I should have said something sooner. I've witnessed some of these conversations where things Morgan supposedly said were exaggerated. Brooke turned to him, betrayal in her eyes. You're taking her side? Your boss over your girlfriend. It's not about sides, Jesse said gently. It's about the truth. The word hung in the air between us. Truth. Something our family had been dancing around for years, preferring comfortable narratives to difficult realities. I want to try again, I said into the silence. All of us. But we need honesty. No more triangulation, no more gatekeeper games, no more rewriting conversations. Mom reached out and took my hand. I want that too. I've missed you, Morgan. More than you know. Dad cleared his throat. I may have misjudged some things. If what you're saying is accurate. It wasn't quite an apology, but from my father, it was significant. Brooke remained silent, tears streaming down her face now. The careful image she'd cultivated, perfect daughter, family protector, was crumbling, and I couldn't tell if she was mourning its loss or relieved to set down the burden. This won't be fixed in one conversation, I acknowledged. But it's a start. As we prepared to rejoin the party, Mom held me back for a moment. Your gift, she said softly. The emerald brooch. How did you know? You showed me Grandma's jewelry box when I was 10, I replied. You pointed to a similar one that was lost during the move. You said it was your favorite. Her eyes filled with tears. You remembered that? After all these years. I remember everything important, Mom, I said, squeezing her hand. Just because I'm not here doesn't mean I'm not present. We returned to the celebration, the tension still palpable but somehow lighter. The truth, even painful truth, weighs less than lies. As guests slowly resumed their conversations, I noticed something unexpected. Family members approaching me, making real connections rather than small talk. Even my father made an effort, awkwardly asking about my work with genuine interest for perhaps the first time. Brooke remained distant, processing her new reality. This confrontation had exposed not just her actions, but her insecurities. Healing that relationship would take the most time, if it could be healed at all. But as Mom cut her birthday cake, with me standing on one side and Brooke on the other, both of us reflected in her smile, I felt something I hadn't expected to find that day: hope. The Monday after Mom's birthday, I returned to my office in Boston with the emotional equivalent of a hangover. The confrontation had been necessary but draining. I'd extended my stay through Sunday, spending time with Mom, having stilted but civil conversations with Dad, and giving Brooke the space she clearly needed. Rachel looked up from her desk as I walked in, coffee in hand. "So, how was the family reunion?" "Eventful," I replied, managing a small smile. "Very eventful. And did they appreciate the amazing, successful woman you've become?" she asked, only half joking. "Actually," I said, surprising myself with the realization, "I think they're starting to." The professional implications of the weekend hit me around 11 that morning when I received an email from HR confirming a departmental transfer request for Jesse Lawson. My sister's boyfriend was moving from software engineering to the product development team. A lateral move that would take him out of my reporting chain. Professionally appropriate. Personally complicated. I called Jesse that afternoon. "You didn't have to transfer departments," I said when he answered. "It seemed like the right thing to do," he replied. "Cleaner boundaries, given everything." "How's Brooke taking all of this?" I asked, the question I'd been avoiding. Jesse's sigh carried through the phone. "She's struggling. Your confrontation shattered the narrative she's been living in. She gave me an ultimatum Saturday night." My stomach tightened. "You or me?" "Essentially," he confirmed. "She said if I respected her, I'd quit Vertex." The manipulation was so familiar it almost made me laugh. "What did you tell her?" "That I respect myself too much to let anyone dictate my career choices," he said simply. "We're taking a break while she processes everything." I felt a stab of guilt. "I never meant to come between you." "You didn't," Jesse assured me. This was coming anyway. "I've been noticing patterns in how she handles conflict. Your confrontation just accelerated things." After hanging up, I stared out my office window at the Boston skyline. The personal and professional had collided in ways I never anticipated, creating ethical challenges no business school case study had prepared me for. I scheduled a meeting with our chief ethics officer that afternoon, explaining the situation in clinical terms. "I need to ensure there's no appearance of impropriety in how I manage the situation," I concluded. Diane listened attentively before responding. "Document everything. Recuse yourself from any direct decisions involving Jesse. And consider bringing in an executive coach to help navigate the personal-professional boundaries." I followed her advice, setting clear protocols that would protect both Jesse's career and my professional integrity. It was strange applying corporate governance to family drama, but perhaps that structure was exactly what was needed. Meanwhile, I was processing my own emotional responses to the weekend's revelations. I scheduled an emergency session with Dr. Levine, my therapist. "You stood up for yourself," she noted after I recounted the confrontation. "How did that feel?" "Terrifying," I admitted. "And then, liberating." "The family dynamics you've described are classic," she explained. "The golden child who stays versus the scapegoat who leaves. Your sister's identity became wrapped up in being the good daughter who sacrificed, while you became the selfish one who pursued your own path. Neither characterization is accurate or fair." "How do we fix it?" I asked. Dr. Levine smiled gently. "That's the million-dollar question. It starts with continued honesty and adjusted expectations. Your family won't change overnight, if at all." 2 weeks after the birthday party, Mom called with news that made my heart sink. Her doctor had confirmed early-stage cognitive decline. Not Alzheimer's, but noticeable memory issues that would likely progress. "I should have told you sooner," she said, voice small. Brooke thought. "Mom," I interrupted gently, "I need you to make me a promise. From now on, you'll tell me these things directly. Not through Brooke, not through Dad. We need to rebuild our relationship without intermediaries." "I promise," she said, and I heard a new determination in her voice. In fact, I've been thinking, would it be possible for me to visit you in Boston? See your life there. The question stunned me. In 15 years, neither of my parents had visited my adopted city. I'd love that, Mom. When were you thinking? Next month? Your father has a fishing trip planned, and I thought. The implication that she wanted to come alone, to see me without the family dynamics interfering, warmed something long cold inside me. I'll send you flight options tonight, I promised. At work, I threw myself into the Singapore expansion with renewed focus. The personal clarity somehow translated to professional sharpness. I found myself making bolder strategic decisions, pushing back more confidently against bad ideas, advocating more fiercely for my team. Something's different about you, my boss Alan commented after I successfully negotiated a complicated vendor contract. More centered. I'm learning to bring my whole self to work, I replied, surprising us both with the personal disclosure. The Jesse situation remained delicate. We maintained strictly professional interactions at the office, but occasionally met for coffee on weekends to process the ongoing family drama. His relationship with Brooke remained on pause, though they still communicated sporadically. She's seeing a therapist, he told me during one such coffee. Your mom insisted. That news gave me more hope than anything else. Brooke voluntarily seeking help suggested she might be ready to examine her own role in the family dysfunction. 3 months after the birthday confrontation, I received the most unexpected email of my career. The CEO wanted to meet to discuss a new VP position overseeing global operations. The promotion would mean more responsibility, more travel, and significantly more visibility within the company. During the interview, CEO Stephanie Davis asked something unexpected. The role requires difficult conversations and standing firm under pressure. Tell me about a time you've demonstrated those qualities outside of work. I took a deep breath and shared a carefully edited version of the birthday confrontation, focusing on the principles of truth-telling and boundary setting rather than the messy family details. When I finished, Stephanie nodded thoughtfully. That's exactly why we're considering you for this role, Morgan. Your technical skills are exceptional, but it's your integrity and courage that set you apart. A week later, I accepted the VP position. The first person I called was my mother. I'm so proud of you, she said, her voice clear and present in a way it hadn't been in years. I always knew you were destined for important things. Even when I was getting third place in science fairs? I teased gently. Especially then, she replied. Because you did it your way, not anyone else's. As I hung up, I realized something profound had shifted. For the first time in my adult life, I felt both professionally successful and personally authentic with my family. The walls between those worlds were finally beginning to dissolve. 3 months after the birthday confrontation, my mother stepped off the plane at Logan Airport, her first visit to my Boston life. I waited nervously at the gate, feeling like I was picking up a first date rather than my own mother. Morgan, she called, waving enthusiastically when she spotted me. She looked smaller somehow, more fragile than I remembered, but her eyes were bright and clear. Welcome to Boston, Mom, I said, embracing her. I can't believe you're finally here. The week that followed was nothing short of transformative. I took 3 days off work, an unprecedented act that had Rachel checking if I had a fever, and showed Mom every aspect of my life here. My apartment with its view of the Charles River. My favorite coffee shop where the baristas knew my order by heart. The hidden garden in the public library where I read during lunch breaks. It's beautiful, she said as we walked along the waterfront. Your life here. I can see why you love it. On her 3rd day, I brought her to the Vertex offices. Watching my mother interact with my colleagues, seeing her obvious pride as people spoke highly of my work, healed something deep within me. This wasn't the strained family narrative of Morgan the absent daughter, but rather Morgan the respected leader. Jesse greeted us professionally, maintaining the appropriate boundaries we'd established. But I noticed the warm way he spoke to my mother, the genuine respect in his interaction. Whatever happened with him and Brooke, he had become an unexpected ally in my family's healing process. When Mom returned to Chicago, something fundamental had changed. Our weekly calls resumed, but with new depth and honesty. She began sending me small packages, a book she thought I'd enjoy, a scarf that matched my eyes, tokens that said, "I see you," more clearly than words. My father made efforts too, in his own awkward way. He started emailing articles about the tech industry with comments like, "Thought you might find this relevant." Small steps, but meaningful ones. The situation with Brooke remained the most complex. For 2 months after the confrontation, we didn't speak directly. Then, unexpectedly, she called one evening as I was preparing for a presentation. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she said without preamble. "And a lot of therapy." "That's good," I replied cautiously. "I'm not ready to talk about everything," she continued. "But I wanted to say, I understand now that I was wrong about some things. The way I portrayed you to Mom and Dad wasn't fair." It wasn't quite an apology, but from Brooke, it was significant. "Thank you for telling me that," I said. "Jesse says you've been very professional about everything," she added. "He respects you a lot." "He's a good person," I offered. "Whatever happens between you two, I think he cares about you." "We're working through things," she said vaguely. "Anyway, I should go. But I wanted you to know I'm trying." My promotion to VP brought new challenges and opportunities. The role required more travel, including regular trips to Singapore for our expansion there. Ironically, this increased my visits to Chicago, as O'Hare became my frequent layover between international flights. During these layovers, I began scheduling brief visits with my parents. Sometimes just dinner at the airport with Mom. Sometimes an overnight stay that included Dad. Gradually, these short, frequent connections built something more authentic than our previous pattern of tense holiday gatherings. My mother's health stabilized with proper treatment for her depression and cognitive issues. "The doctors say reducing stress has helped enormously," she told me during one visit. All that family tension was literally making me sick. 6 months after the birthday confrontation, I hosted Thanksgiving in my Boston apartment, a deliberate reclaiming of the holiday that had been the breaking point the previous year. Mom and Dad accepted the invitation immediately. Tyler came, bringing his new girlfriend. Brooke declined, but sent a surprisingly thoughtful gift basket. As we gathered around my dining table, expanded with a rented table to accommodate everyone, I realized this was the first family gathering that felt genuine rather than performative. We weren't playing roles assigned in childhood. We were adults choosing to connect. "Before we eat," Mom said, raising her glass, "I want to thank Morgan for bringing us together. Not just physically in this beautiful home, but emotionally. Your courage to speak truth has changed our family." Dad nodded, uncharacteristically emotional. "I've been doing a lot of thinking about the kind of father I've been. The kind I want to be going forward. I'm proud of you, Morgan. Your success, yes, but more importantly, your integrity." That acknowledgement, so long desired and never expected, brought tears to my eyes. Later that evening, as everyone helped clean up, another first in Williams' family history, I received a text from Brooke. "Hope dinner went well. Maybe next year." Those 4 words contained more hope than 1,000 forced family photographs. The professional lessons from this personal journey were profound. My leadership style evolved, becoming more authentic and compassionate. I found myself mentoring younger women at Vertex who struggled with work-life boundaries, sharing edited versions of my own journey. Your worth isn't determined by your family's approval or your professional achievements, I told one particularly promising analyst struggling with parental expectations. It comes from living authentically and treating others with dignity. In my next performance review, CEO Stephanie noted, "You've always been excellent at the technical aspects of leadership. Now you're bringing heart to it as well." That combination is rare and valuable. The birthday confrontation that I'd feared would destroy my family had instead begun its transformation. Not into some perfect Hallmark movie unit. We were still messy, still learning, still occasionally falling into old patterns. But we were doing it consciously now, with the courage to call out unhealthy dynamics and the compassion to forgive them. My mother's words during her Boston visit stayed with me. Sometimes being excluded from where you don't truly belong leads you to find where you do. She'd been talking about my career path, but it applied equally to relationships. The painful rejection at her birthday party had ultimately opened the door to more authentic connection. The emerald brooch I'd given Mom became her favorite piece of jewelry, worn to every important family occasion. A small symbol of being seen and remembered, even from a distance. This spring, we're planning our first family therapy session. Mom, Dad, Brooke, Tyler, and me. Not because we're in crisis, but because we're committed to continuing the healing. It's scheduled for next month in Chicago. I've already booked my flight. Family relationships aren't fixed points, but ongoing journeys. The work of maintaining them never really ends. But I've learned that healthy boundaries aren't walls that separate us from family. They're clear markers that allow us to safely connect as our authentic selves. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who misunderstood or misrepresented you? How did you handle it? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about navigating complex relationships and finding your authentic voice. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, sometimes the path to healing begins with the courage to speak your truth, even when your voice shakes.